All right, let's just jump right in. Imagine a product, one so powerful it makes huge profits without actually making anything you can hold. A product so invisible that, honestly, most of us don't even realize we're buying it every single day. This thing, it's fueled wars, it's built entire empires, and it quietly, secretly shapes the very architecture of your life.
Well, that product is debt. And believe me, its story isn't just about money. It's the story of power itself. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see exactly how debt was engineered, step by step, to become the architect of our entire financial world.
You know, at its core, debt seems so innocent, right? It's just a promise to pay tomorrow for something you get today. But, and this is a huge but, hidden inside that simple promise is the real mechanism of control, interest, the power to profit from the future. And for thousands of years, that idea wasn't just frowned upon, it was seen as profoundly dangerous.
And that brings us right to our first section. Because to really get this, we have to stop thinking of debt as some neutral, boring financial tool. We need to see it for what it really is, a product, a very, very deliberately designed product.
So here's the absolute core of it all. The power of debt isn't some accident of history, no way. It was engineered. Its incredible ability to create massive wealth for a tiny few while literally shaping the destiny of entire nations and you was baked right into its DNA from the start.
Okay, so to understand how we got to this point, we've got to travel back in time, way back, to a time when that promise of debt wasn't seen as an opportunity for growth, but as a terrifying danger that absolutely had to be kept in a cage. And when you look back, you see this amazing pattern emerge. For thousands of years, societies all over the world understood something fundamental. If you don't control debt, debt will control you. So from ancient Mesopotamia to the ancient Hebrews, they always had a reset button, a failsafe, a way to stop society from collapsing under its own weight. Which begs the question, where's ours?
And look, these weren't just abstract philosophical ideas. These were practical, hardcore survival strategies. In Mesopotamia, rulers would literally just cancel everyone's debts, declare these debt amnesties, because they knew that a population buried in debt couldn't work, couldn't farm, and definitely couldn't fight a war. The core belief was simple, and it was brutal. Unchecked debt always, always leads to slavery. It was treated less like a financial tool and more like a hurricane.
And right here, you can see the mind-blowing U-turn our world has taken. We went from a world that saw debt as a public enemy that needed to be forgiven to our world which literally markets permanent, unending debt as the secret to prosperity. I mean, that shift, it didn't just happen by itself. It was a complete revolution in how we think about money and power.
And this is the turning point. This is the moment when the people in charge stopped forgiving debt and started weaponizing it. They turned it into the brand new engine of power.
Now, this massive change didn't just happen overnight. It started small, back in the Renaissance, with powerful banking families like the Medici. They were building empires not on land or armies, but on lending. Then you see the Dutch get really clever in the 17th century, figuring out they could fund their wars by selling bonds, basically IOUs to their own people. But the real game changer, the masterstroke, was in 1694, the creation of the Bank of England. That's when national debt became official, permanent, a core part of the state itself.
And what this did was create this perfect, unstoppable feedback loop. Think about it. A government needs a ton of cash for a war, so it sells its future by issuing bonds. It uses that borrowed money to expand its empire, which, surprise, gives it a bigger tax base. That bigger tax base guarantees the interest payments to the people who bought the bonds, making government debt the safest investment around. And because it's so safe, it's even easier for the government to borrow more money for more wars, more expansion, and more wealth for the creditors. The cycle just feeds on itself, over and over again.
And that right there is the crucial takeaway. Debt wasn't just for emergencies anymore. It wasn't a temporary bridge. It became the permanent foundation of the government. The state's very survival was now hooked on its ability to borrow, forever. And the bankers who managed all that debt, well, they suddenly became the most powerful people in the room.
Okay, so how did this grand strategy for running empires become the defining feature of our everyday lives? Well, that's what this next section is all about. How debt became the very lifeline of the entire modern system.
I mean, just look around. The architecture of your life is probably built on borrowing. Your mortgage, your car loan, your student debt, your credit cards, it's all powered by debt. And let's be clear, this wasn't some natural, organic evolution. Oh no, it was a massive, targeted marketing campaign. Debt was sold to us all as the golden ticket to the middle-class dream.
And after World War II, this whole system went global. You had institutions like the IMF and the World Bank created to lend money to entire nations. But those loans always came with strings attached, forcing countries to change their laws in ways that, guess what, benefited the lenders. At the exact same time, consumer credit, mortgages, credit cards absolutely exploded. But the biggest change, the most profound one, was psychological. Debt went from being something shameful, something you hid, to just being normal.
And that brings us to the fifth and final piece of this puzzle. The ultimate goal, the true function of this entire system. How to profit directly from your future.
Okay, I know this sounds pretty radical, but just think about it for a second. When the whole system completely shattered in 2008, who got saved? Was it the millions of homeowners who lost everything? Nope. It was the banks, the creditors, who got bailed out with trillions of dollars. That crisis wasn't a bug. It was a feature. It showed us exactly who the system is designed to protect. The system didn't fail. It worked perfectly for the people at the top. And after that so-called failure, you'd think we'd have learned our lesson, right? Wrong. We doubled down, hard. Today, the total global debt is somewhere around $300 trillion. That number is so big it's almost meaningless, so let's put it this way. It's more than 3 times the value of everything the entire world produces in a year. We are, quite literally, drowning in promises that we've made to the future. So, why should you care about any of this? Because every single time you make an interest payment on your credit card, your car, your house, it's a direct transfer of your wealth. It's your money moving from your pocket into someone else's. From the many who are stuck in these payment cycles to the very few who profit from them. I mean, think about a 30-year mortgage. You can end up paying 2, maybe even 3 times what the house was actually worth. All that extra cash, that's the slow, steady drip of your future wealth flowing directly to the creditors. And don't think for a second the system is done evolving. The next big thing on the horizon could be something called central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. Basically, it's digital cash, issued and controlled by the government. Now imagine money that's programmable, where an algorithm can approve or deny you a loan instantly, or where interest rates can be changed in real time. Some people will call that efficiency, but if the long history of debt has taught us anything, it's that efficiency for the creditor usually means a lot less freedom for the debtor.
But you know, when you strip it all down, the true genius of this system isn't just financial, it's psychological, because somehow it has managed to convince us to celebrate the very thing that traps us, to call it progress, to actually confuse the state of being in debt with the feeling of being prosperous.
So I'm going to leave you with this one final thought. After seeing how this whole product was designed and how it really works, you have to ask yourself, has the system taught us to confuse the ability to borrow with the reality of being wealthy? The answer, I think, is buried in our history. You just have to be willing to dig it up.